What is going on, guys? It's Sloppy Saturdays back at you guys with another video. And today we're going to be talking about this QB class. This is going to be our really second episode on the QB class. Now, this QB class, in my opinion, is one of the worst I've seen in a while. I think this is not the year, if you need a QB in the NFL, to be taking one. And there's just been news all around this QB class, especially around the combine. I mean, we're talking about Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, not even participating in the combine, which I want to talk about. We're talking about Tyler Shaw, a guy that was, in my opinion, not overly impressive at Louisville, and Louisville wasn't overly impressive as a team. We didn't hear about him all year in the college football season. He's a guy rising in draft boards right now. Jackson Dart, another guy that's completely rising. We thought Jackson Dart had a lot of value in the second round. Now it seems like as of today, you have no chance of taking him in the second round. And we're going to talk about a couple of other QBs in this class as well. Again, as far as the recent news goes that I just highlighted, let's dive into that. First off, Tyler Shaw. Tyler Shaw, a guy like I just mentioned, wasn't overly impressive at Louisville. I mean, we're talking about 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Louisville was an above-average team in an ACC conference that was very weak. He had a QBR of 24th in the country this year. Why is Tyler Shaw rising up in draft boards so massively? I mean, if you ask some NFL analysts right now, they think this guy could be an NFL starter possibly as early as next season. Where did this guy come from? Now, he is 25. He does have a lot of experience in college football. And again, I feel like people in the NFL are now adapting really to anything they're getting out of the college football realm. I mean, it used to be they wanted the young guys to develop. You have a multitude of years. Now it's like if you don't come hitting the ground running year one or year two, you're off the team that drafted you. So I think people are looking for people that are more developed now that could come into the NFL and start right away. And if you look at Tyler Shaw, I mean, his physical capabilities make sense. There really is nobody in the draft like him. I mean, we're talking about 6'5, 225 pounds. So that part makes sense. The age makes sense. But again, I think this is just really a result of this draft class being so weak. I mean, let's think about it. You have two guys in the top that we're going to talk about that I don't think are overly impressive generational type talents by any means. I mean, we were talking about Jackson Dart. I really like Jackson Dart, who we're going to talk about. He's been bouncing around a little bit, but there really has been nothing in this QB class to really ride home about. A guy like Tyler Shaw, again, who's experienced, who has physical capabilities that almost anybody in this draft class doesn't have, makes sense why he's rising up at draft boards. Again, I think it is just a reach. I don't think he's going to be a great player in the NFL. Again, I've been watching this guy for how many years in college? Hasn't been overly impressive. Louisville again wasn't overly impressive this year. He wasn't. I mean, he was a top half quarterback in college football, but he wasn't like one of the guys in college football. And again, if you're sitting in college football and you're 25 or whatever, you're a guy that stays for 4 years. Again, you got to have a season like Joe Burrow, like Jaden Daniels. If you're a guy that bounces around from team to team, your last year has to be really special for me to really believe in you. I mean, we're talking about a guy that had a solid year on a Louisville team in a weak conference. Again, I don't get it. I think it's as a result, as it always happens. The draft is coming closer, and a guy needs to be hyped up in a weak QB class. They got to make noise, and Tyler Shaw's the guy to make a noise about. And again, it does make sense. He is a different type of prospect than anybody in this draft. Like I said, he's older, he's bigger, makes sense in that aspect. But again, I'm not buying into Tyler Shaw at all. If you want my opinion on that. Now, next up, we're going with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders not participating in the NFL Combine. I think this is absolutely ridiculous, and I think this really needs to stop. Again, if you're a guy like Abdul Carter who's coming off an injury, don't participate in the NFL Combine, want to stay healthy for teams, I absolutely understand it. It's not a necessity. But we got to stop the notion of everybody not participating in NFL Combines. It's absolutely insane. Now, if you're coming to the NFL, you're a John Elway, you're an Andrew Luck. Even if you're a Trevor Lawrence, a guy who hasn't panned out in the NFL, obviously, but those type of generational type prospects with those type of hypes, you don't want to participate in the NFL Combine because, again, it's really not doing for you. You're guaranteed to be the number one overall pick, and you're again, garnering all this hype, it makes sense. But for now, everybody not participating in the combine, it almost seems like it is absolutely ridiculous. Again, I've gave my input on Cam Ward, on Shedeur Sanders. Again, I don't even think they're worthy of being top three picks. I think again, teams need quarterbacks, and these are the top of the class. Too many teams need quarterbacks. Somebody's going to take a shot again in the top three, in the top five. but I do not think these guys are worth it. Now, again, Cam Ward, a guy that I think should definitely be the QB1 in this class. I think his ability to extend plays, his arm talent, again, I think he definitely should be the QB1 in this class. Shedeur Sanders, I think, is very, very overhyped. I think Jackson Dart honestly is better than him. If, like, again, taking away all draft capital in a vacuum, I'm going with Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders. Again, I think you're paying a little bit of a premium for Shedeur Sanders. And, you talk about Colorado, you talk about Deion Sanders. I think that brings a premium on him, but I think Jackson Dart is a better prospect. We're talking about Jackson Dart, a guy with similar stats and similar capabilities, and he did it in the SEC. I absolutely love Jackson Dart. Shedeur Sanders, again, I think you're paying just such a premium because he played for Colorado and that Sanders last name. And to be honest with you, every workout and every throwing video I see of Shedeur Sanders, he looks worse and worse. And I don't think this guy has elite escapability. I don't think this guy has elite arm talent. I think this guy is more of a rhythm guy, a guy that could throw people open, super accurate. Again, if I had to give a comp to it, he really reminds me a lot of Geno Smith, maybe on his highest ceiling, CJ Stroud. But again, not a lot to write home about with Shedeur Sanders. And even with Cam Ward. Again, Cam Ward should be number one player in this class at the quarterback position. But again, to not participate in combine, these two guys, if they were in last year's class, they'd be an afterthought about at the quarterback position. There'd be 3, 4 guys, even 5 guys, maybe possibly taken over them last year. So again, I completely disagree with that. Now getting into Jackson Dart, a guy that's rising in draft boards. I mean, it makes sense. I said it about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. If Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are being picked in the top 5, top 10, Jackson Dart should be in that conversation. I think he's a lot closer to Cam Ward than people think, and I think he's better than Shedeur Sanders. I mean, we're talking about a guy in the SEC that has a ton of experience. And again, he has very similar capabilities to Shedeur Sanders. I said it a million times throughout his college football career. If I was an offensive lineman, this is the guy I would want to block for because he's also a guy that leaves it all on the field. Now, the problem is with Jackson Dart now. We were telling you guys a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, Jackson Dart is a guy that people should be targeting in the second round. Again, you're getting that value of a Shedeur Sanders, of a Cam Ward, and possibly the second round. Then, as the weeks go by, we said Jackson Dart is a guy you should be targeting at the end of the first round. If you have a pick to trade back, and it makes sense. Like, again, skip out on these top 5 draft picks, go for Jackson Dart. He's very close to them. And like I said, in my opinion, I think he's better than Shedeur Sanders. Now we're talking about Jackson Dart possibly as he keeps rising, being in, the top 15, 20 picks. Again, this always happens with NFL draft class. I mean, it happened with Bo Nix, other people last year. Happens all the time. Teams need quarterbacks, and originally they get mocked in the second round. They climb up to the first. They climb up even more. People need quarterbacks. He's going to continue to climb up. But again, I am very confident in Jackson Dart. If you're taking him well behind Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, I think he's right there with them. And again, I love his experience in the SEC compared to those guys in the Big 12 and the ACC. Jackson Dart, a guy I absolutely love and a rare love in this draft class. Now getting into some guys like Quinn Ewers, Will Howard. I thought Will Howard looked absolutely awful at the NFL Combine. I think he looked terrible. Again, he could not get his timing down. He looked super nervous. And again, this is a guy in Will Howard that wasn't overly impressive at Kansas State. Again, he did exceed his expectations. He goes to Ohio State, which was the perfect situation for him. And it really made sense why he went to Ohio State. Again, Ohio State didn't go for a superstar level quarterback. They had this plethora of weapons last year, and they just needed a guy to get the ball out, to get the weapons to them. And he played really good last year. I mean, obviously they won a national championship. Do I think a lot of people could have done in his situation? Yes, but again, I really don't like playing the hypothetical game. Again, you could talk about other people doing it in his situation, but Will Howard was the guy that did it. He did it on the big stage. I thought his college football player form was his best friend. I thought he settled in really nicely there. Made a lot of really good throws, especially in the Texas game. He was throwing guys open. Now you talk about him at the NFL Combine not being able to make these easy throws that he should be making. Again, I think Will Howard, again, sometimes like we always say this in this channel, you got to take away a guy from his situation. Will Howard was never that blue chip number one guy, number one prospect. I really don't trust Will Howard as an NFL starter. Again, I don't think he's a guy that could bring you out of a bad situation. I think he's a guy like at Ohio State that had a ton of weapons and was able to make do with it. But I don't think he's a game changer at all. I don't even really think he's a legit NFL starting prospect. Like I said, I've seen throughout the Ohio State regular season him the ability to just miss easy throws, guys that were again wide open throws that he should be making consistently. And I feel like it got overlooked because again, you're talking about an Ohio State team with a ton of weapons that were able to blow by most teams every single game. So it was overlooked. Again, Will Howard was a guy that played for a loaded Ohio State team. And again, he did what he had to do to win a national championship in college. But this is not a guy that's going to change your franchise or be an NFL star in the NFL. Just stay off Will Howard. Next up, we're going with Quinn Ewers. Another guy that I thought looked pretty subpar at the NFL Combine. He did miss some easy throws. Again, he didn't look as bad as Will Howard. Quinn Ewers is a guy, in my opinion, that's still really riding off his hype from his high school days, his coming into college. I mean, we're talking about a guy that was tied for the highest rated quarterback prospect ever. And I really don't understand this. Isn't a guy with a huge arm. This isn't a guy with huge legs, huge frame. Again, pretty average frame, average arm. He does everything okay. I was pretty disappointed in Quinn Ewers throughout his whole college football career, but mainly this year. This was a guy that was coming out this year in a weak draft class. He was mocked in the first round for a majority of the beginning of the year. And again, now he's mocked in the second, in the third, in the fourth round. Like again, he's a day 2, day 3 pick. And again, I really don't like him. And I think a team's going to maybe reach on him even a little higher. Again, due to the need at quarterback and due to the prospect that he was. I really thought he should have stayed another year in college and transferred to a big program. Obviously, he wasn't going to start at Texas, but again, I really think he needed another year. I don't know if the injury messed with him a little bit because again, he was injured towards the middle of the season. Again, the noise with Arch Manning could have messed with him a little bit, but this was a guy in big games that really didn't prove much to me. I mean, we're talking about the Georgia's game. I feel like he fell short both of those games. The Texas A&M game, he threw a huge pick in that game, only got in the end zone once. This is a guy that really never took the bull by the horns, in my opinion. And I'm not a big fan of Quinn Ewers. Like I said, I think he has average size, does everything pretty average, and I don't think he's going to be a game changer at all. Again, a guy that's really riding his original hype because he was unreal hype. Again, if you're taking him in the third, fourth round as an NFL backup, going off potential, again, not a horrible move, but Quinn Ewers, again, another person I'm not high in. I just feel like I keep bashing this NFL quarterback, class. It is what it is. I really don't like it. I'm going to continue to tell you guys I don't like it. But a guy I do like at his pick, I love Dillon Gabriel. If anybody knows me, they know I've always loved Dillon Gabriel. I think this guy, again, if he was 6'2", 6'3", we could play the hypothetical game. I think he would be the first quarterback taken in this draft. I think he has the best arm in this draft. I mean, he recorded the hardest throw in like ever recorded. And I think he throws guys open really well. I think he has great anticipation and he's able to run. He's a pretty mobile guy. He doesn't look to run, but when he does, he's pretty mobile as well. And we've seen shorter quarterbacks succeed. I think it's definitely worth taking a chance with Dillon Gabriel in the third round for sure. I mean, you're talking about especially with an NFL situation where he's in a good situation with a spread offense. I think this guy is super accurate. He can hit throws. Like I said, huge arm, especially for his size. I don't know where it's coming from. And he is very mobile. Dillon Gabriel is a guy I like. Again, I understand why he's going in the third round, possibly just because of his size. But again, after Jackson Dart, I think this is the next guy. Again, he's played in big programs. He's shown the ability to step up in huge games. Now, everybody's going to point out the Oregon Ohio State second game. I know he did not play well. But if you look at the first game, he played really well. You look at the Red River rivalry at Oklahoma, he played really well. This was a guy that was able to step up in big games. Again, I think all his traits are really there outside of the size. I think he's definitely worth a third round pick. That wraps up this episode of the QB class. We're going to be highlighting this QB class all the way up to the draft. Then when the draft comes, we're going to be talking about fits with the teams that selected them. But again, I really do not like this QB class at all. I don't like what's going on, the overhyping of Tyler Shaw. I don't like what's going on. These guys, they're generational prospects, not participating in the NFL Combine. And I thought we had a steal in Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart, a guy that I actually really like in this class, and he just keeps moving up and up. We're going to continue to cover, like I said, this QB class and Sloppy Saturday.